The Second Mononobe Eastern Expedition, the struggle for Yamato. The Allied forces destroyed Izumo and Kibi, then set their sights on Yamato. However, during this advance, internal strife broke out. The first to arrive in Yamato was Tajimamori's army, the one that had destroyed the Tawayama sanctuary. In Yamato, Prince Toyohiko of the Shiki dynasty stood ready to meet them. Tajimamori schemed to become the great king himself. At that moment, Ikume's army, which had crushed Kibi and eastern Izumo, arrived. They tried to break in from Kawachi, but were blocked by Toyohiko's forces and stalled in the Ikoma Mountains. It is said that the name Ikoma comes from Ikume's army encamping there. Tajimamori allied with Toyohiko and attacked Ikume's forces. Yet, King Ikume joined hands with the Izumo people and repelled Tajimamori. Seeking revenge against Tajimamori, who had once destroyed the Tawayama sanctuary, the Izumo warrior Nomi no Sukune lent his strength. This incident is recorded in the Nihon Shoki as the origin of sumo. Even today, on the northern side of Mount Miwa, the sumo shrine stands. The arrival of the Toyo Kingdom army. Just when King Ikume finally drove Tajimamori from Yamato, relief was short-lived. The forces of King Michinushi, who continued to resist in Yamato, gained support from Takenouchi Otane, who led troops gathered in Kii province. Since Otane had once received the title Sukune from King Inie and called himself Takenouchi no Sukune, Ikume naturally assumed he was an ally. But Otane bore resentment, believing that Ikume and Toyotamahime had schemed together to prevent him from receiving the silver seal and blue ribbon rank from Wei. Although Ikume's forces were driven into temporary retreat, the Toyo Kingdom army under Toyohiko finally arrived late from the Seto Naikai into Kawachi, after completing the funeral and tomb construction for Toyotamahime. With this, Ikume's forces suddenly regained momentum, pushing King Michinushi and Takenouchi Sukune back as far as Tamba. The delay had been caused by Toyotamahime's untimely death. After her passing, her daughter Toyohime became supreme commander, while her younger brother Toyohiko led the army. The entry of Toyohiko and Toyohime into Yamato. Having completed their mother's funeral, Toyohiko and Toyohime finally entered Yamato. The people called them Toyoki Iribiko, Prince Toyo entering, and Toyoki irihime, Princess Toyo entering. But what they found was their half-brother, King Ikume, behaving arrogantly. Ikume had taken as queen the woman of a former enemy state, Princess Toyohime, and elevated her as a priestess. It is we of the Toyo lineage who were recognized by the Wei court as rightful successors of the King of Wa. Outraged, Toyoki iribiko cast Toyohime aside and installed his sister Toyoki irihime as priestess of Mount Miwa. At Kasanuimura, he built the Hinokuma shrine, dedicating it to the moon god of Usa. This was the peak moment of the Toyo kingdom's power in Yamato. Toyoki iribiko envisioned his sister Toyoki irihime as the priestess of the moon goddess, at the center of a new regime. The cunning schemes of King Ikume. But King Ikume did not look kindly on this plan. He dispatched messengers with letters to the former royal house of Izumo. In secret, Ikume allied with Izumo's Tomi clan to remove the Toyo kingdom's forces. If you help drive them out, I will grant you Mount Miwa and the land of Shiki, he promised. The Toyo kingdom, however, claimed that they alone were the rightful heirs of the King of Wa in alliance with Wei, and thus worthy of the throne. Dissatisfied that Ikume had allied with Toyohiko, they consulted the Wei military commander. As a result, Toyoki irihime was recognized as the legitimate successor of Toyotamahime and acknowledged as queen of the allied regime. Ikume was forced to accept this, and the Toyo kingdom joined in alliance. Soon after, the Wei commander departed, believing peace had been restored. The struggle for the throne of Yamato. King Ikume feared that Toyoki iribiko might seize the throne. So he incited him to banish Toyohiko. The wars of Yamato grew ever more fierce. Toyohiko attempted to establish a new regime centered on his sister, but Ikume cunningly whittled away their power, calling upon Izumo's forces. The moon god rituals conducted by Toyoki Irihime gradually gathered followers. She came to be called Wakahirumeno no Muchi, the noble maiden of the moon goddess, symbol of lunar worship. Yet her rites never achieved the same flourishing as those of Toyohime, who worshipped the sun goddess. The retreat of Toyoki Irihime and the birth of Motoise. Eventually, Toyoki Irihime and his forces were driven from Yamato, and his sister Toyoki Irihime fled from Mount Miwa. She arrived in Tanba, near Amanohashidate at Kono Shrine. It is said, here once dwelt Princess Toyoki Irihime, and even today it is revered as Motoise, the original Ise. King Ikume occupied Yamato and assumed the throne. This is remembered as the enthronement of Emperor Suinin, the 11th emperor. In reality, however, he was little more than a local chieftain of the Yamato region. Ikume took Princess Hibasu of the Shiki dynasty as his queen, and their daughter was Princess Yamato Hime. Yamato Hime cherished the worship of the morning sun, traveling across the land and eventually settled in Ise. This marked the beginning of the Grand Shrine of Ise, where Yamato Hime is enshrined as Yamato Hime no Mikoto. The founding of a new dynasty. Thus, through cunning schemes, King Ikume of the Mononobe clan defeated the powers of Izumo, Kamo, and Toyo, one after another, and established a new dynasty in Yamato. To conceal this truth, the compilers of the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki rewrote Toyoki Irihime's name as Toyosuke Irihime, erasing the Toyo lineage of the Wei-recognized King of Wa from history's stage. Here began the new Yamato dynasty. Conclusion. Seen in this light, it becomes clear how great a role Izumo played in shaping the foundations of Japan's culture, spirituality, and civilization. Of course, influences came from China, the Korean peninsula, and even distant Europe. Yet Japan's unique spiritual foundation had already sprouted in this era. Izumo's traditions align strikingly with what history and archaeology have revealed. Excavated ruins, artifacts, and the old shrines and legends scattered across the land. As further excavations and research progress, Izumo's traditions will surely be confirmed even more. How was Japan's culture, the very heart of Japan, truly formed? In ancient times, Japan learned much from the advanced civilization of China and built its state, yet the Japanese language was unlike Chinese. It seems more natural to think that a firmly established Japanese language already existed before contact with China, and that Chinese culture was later adopted upon this foundation. While politics, institutions, and many cultural forms were borrowed, the essence of Japan's traditional culture remained distinct. This mirrors post-war Japan. Though following in America's footsteps, its culture remained unique. Just as the Japanese language was born from layers of many tongues, so too did Japan's culture emerge unique and original. From the Jomon age onward, Japan inherited the Jomon people's pattern to respect foreign cultures, adopt them, and evolve them into distinct forms. This pattern still flows in the blood of the Japanese people today. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story stirred something within you, we invite you to subscribe, share your thoughts, and walk with us as we continue to uncover hidden threads in the fabric of human history.